Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon, and I'm very excited to be here to talk about measuring ROI and engagement. I snuck engagement in because a lot of times, if you want to know how well your marketing is going, you need to get engagement with people first. So in today's session, we're actually going to talk about what are some of the tips and tricks you can do to get people to engage with what you're doing, and then how do you measure the effectiveness of what you're doing. We are also streaming live on Facebook Live right now. There's Edward. So everybody say hey to the Facebook space right now to make sure that everybody gets a chance to be with us today. So where I really want to start when you think about return on investment is what you measure moves. So whether it's your time that you're spending doing your own online marketing, whether it is different key performance indicators or KPIs about what you're doing, whether it's how many people like or engage with what your content is, make sure you start a system for yourself of measuring what you're doing. Because as we heard in the systems session earlier, for those of you who attended that type of repeated activity of measuring the effectiveness of what you're doing matters a lot. We work with small businesses nationwide, and consistently I'm surprised by how many of them are willing to invest either time or money in online marketing, but don't measure the effectiveness of what they're doing in any way. And there's a lot of tools to do that. I'll also show you today a few sample campaigns and how we measure it and what we see out of it. So before we start, though, I have to have my couple boring statistics slides. When it comes to social media in particular, we've been doing this for more than 8 years at Dream Local Digital, which seems like a lifetime in internet speak. What we're seeing is in the past year, a huge uptick in the amount of small businesses that are getting into the space. All of you who are here, because this is sort of a thought leadership conference, all of you here are in this space, I suppose. How many of you are also helping other businesses or your boss do this? Great. Okay, so it's really a common space. And we're seeing that social and inbound and content marketing are really how many businesses are driving leads. Now, measuring ROI matters because those things take time. So don't write a couple blog posts, don't attend an Agent to Change and then get a newsletter thing and 2 weeks later be like, hey, it's not working. It really takes time to start building these types of strategies. And small businesses are moving there significantly. Right now, the latest study by BIA Kelsey shows that the average small business should be allocating 20 to 25% of their budget to social alone. Also, this is a recent study of small businesses nationwide by Burrell Associates. The average small business today is considering social media just part of their advertising. In fact, it's the biggest part that they're doing. So when a business is trying to think about, many of you, when you're trying to think about what you're going to do, be thinking about social media and then obviously how we're going to get ROI out of that experience as well. Paid search is number 2, and newspaper sites or media sites are number 3. Now, we asked a lot of questions in this survey. Burrell Associates asked a lot of questions about how well do you think it's working? Does social media really help you? And in this survey, 66% said word of mouth. How many of you say word of mouth is your big thing? Right, great. And I heard one up here too. Oh, he moved, sorry. Referrals are a big deal. I can tell you that the average small business is getting the majority of referrals via social media as well. And then you have your company site and social. So those 3 things round out the top, which is what we want to talk about, how to get more life there today. And small businesses think that Facebook is the most effective in terms of advertising. I'm interested in hearing more from many of you about what you think when we start getting into the different channels. We're running thousands of campaigns through all these platforms and definitely see that when it comes down to paying, when you choose to pay and invest, Facebook is one of the lowest cost ROI for our average SMB as well. But we're getting good results on a lot of different ones, and that's what we're going to cover today. And a lot of businesses are moving to Facebook really quickly. So before we start talking more about ROI, I want you to sort of change our thinking today. And I want you to think about your target and ideal customer. Now, I don't mean generally speaking. I mean if you could work really hard on your marketing after today with everything that you learn in all these dynamic sessions and you have about a month later and 10 or 15 customers were in front of you, what do they look like? What motivates them? What is it that makes them your target or your ideal customer? A great example is we have a client that's a roofer. And when we first started doing the work, he said, oh, I want $1 million homes. Like, I'm excited about $1 million homes. And we have these 3 projects. And he's showing me pictures that he's super proud of, aerial shots of these very big oceanfront homes. But when I looked at his customer database, I realized that his average customer, their house is about $150,000. So if I started doing a ton of ads and content marketing and everything looking for these few really wealthy people with big homes, we would be alienating his bread and butter, who actually is paying all the bills. So for you, think about your target and then your ideal differently, because it's going to change how we measure ROI. Now, of course, we've got search. You need to show up on search. I don't want to act like we don't care about search. It's really very important to us, and mobile as well. And the primary way that we're getting results in ROI for our clients is through content on search. You know, relevant content, as all of you know when you're here, relevant content is what's driving search engines. So go back to thinking about your target and ideal customers and write down, what do you think the keywords and phrases that they search for when they search for you? Don't think about what you call your business. What does your customer call your business? What do they search for? So that's a really important thing to think about. When we started Dream Local, our first website, all over it said, social media marketing. Like, that's what we do, right? Because I thought I was cool, and I was like, well, all of you guys, like, I'm hip, I got this. No business looks for a social media marketer. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says that at all. Instead, they type into Google, how do I start a Facebook business page? You know, that kind of thing. So we had to rewrite all the content on our site. You should be thinking about the content on your site, on your blog, all your social media posts. Go back to your target and ideal customer, and what do they call what you do? What pain do you serve? And also, mobile is a must. You know, about June of 2015, Google really started force ranking businesses. If you don't have a mobile website or a mobile-friendly website, you will not be successful in search. And many businesses will look on desktops and try to say, okay, how am I performing? How am I showing up on search? Well, more than half the people are searching on a mobile phone, and your ranking on your desktop is not the same as your ranking on a phone. Make sure you understand how well you are optimized and performing. That's going to help you drive more ROI. So just a couple other things about search. Optimize your site, the content on your site. Answer questions. What do people ask you about what you do? You know, I know for me, one of my top ones is, why wouldn't I just do it myself? Question mark. I can get Facebook for free. Why pay someone? Question mark. You know, that kind of thing. The more you can proactively answer questions on your site, the more successful you will be. In many cases, I look at the sales teams and I'll say, what are the objections people have about buying your product or service? And then write blogs or pages on my website about that. Overcome those objections whenever you can. That will drive your search. And also, PR. If you get featured in any news publication, if you get featured or tagged on a popular site like, say, Agents of Change, blast those links all the time. Make sure that you are part of a connected network. BDN Maine actually sells native advertising where you can write blogs and do posts on their site about you, or they'll write something about you, because after your content is featured on their large website, a lot of great optimization things start to happen. So make sure that you don't be afraid to toot your own horn and put your PR and what's happening with you up on your site all the time. I also have some information. By the way, everybody will get a copy of this deck. If you're interested in a copy of the deck, you can bring me your card or drop one at BDN Maine, and I'll make sure everybody gets a copy. Content marketing on other people's sites like BDN Maine works very, very well. The click-through rates on your content on someone else's site, if you're a guest blogger of a large site, if you happen to be featured in BDN Maine or any other one, the response rates are so much higher than a display ad or even a paid Facebook or search ad. So if that's something that you think might be a good fit for your business, think about different options for you in that space, including BDN Maine. Okay, now we're going to jump into social, because when I get questions about ROI, they're almost all focused on how do I get ROI from social media. How many of you are spending, say, more than 5 hours a week on your social media? Okay, so that's quite a bit of you. How many are spending more than 10 on your social media, more than 10 hours a week? It's a lot of you. Okay, so that's a lot of your time. And when you think about all of the other things that you could be doing with your time, and you're spending that much there, you really want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your investment. So I know that most of you here, you guys do this, you know this, doing social media well. The most important thing I will tell you, have a plan. Why are you writing what you are writing? Who are you speaking to? What do you want them to feel or do after they read what you wrote? Right? Like, too many times people just post something in there and hit post and think, I'm done, yay. That's not how it works. So you really need to be thinking about the whys, the hows, and what you want them to do when you are doing your posting. And please answer people. Answer people often. Make sure that you are responding to people, paying attention to what they're saying. I was in Atlanta speaking at a conference this week, and I had a small business come up to me and say, hey, I've got this. I have my gal at the front desk. She actually monitors our Facebook page every day. And I was like, great, what is she doing? And he says, well, she comes in at 8:30. She looks at it every day. I said, well, that's great. She only looking at it at 8:30? And he's like, yes. And so I pull up his page. I start scrolling through it. And I said, you have 4 customer inquiries that aren't answered. Like, please have Jane stop looking up her friends on the Facebook and get her answering your customers when you're doing it. So we tend to try to get notifications and pay a lot of attention to real life activity that's happening on these pages at any given time. Most of you are really good at writing posts. I am actually speaking at a conference of experts compared to a lot of the ones that I speak at. But the one thing I can tell you is encourage conversation whenever you can. Encourage people to engage with you and have conversations with you about what you're trying to do, because the more engagement and activity that you can get in your content, the higher it's going to perform on any social channel. All of the algorithms for search, for Facebook, for Instagram are all built on interactions. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how can you get more people engaging in that content. The first thing you can do is almost the same as if we were at a cocktail party right now and we were all walking around talking to each other. Listening first really helps a lot. Hear what people are saying. Hear what your followers are saying. Hear what your customers are saying. Amplify other people. The more you do that, the more the engagement you start seeing in social media. And also recognize that it's not a one-way street, right? Just blasting out, I do this, I do this, I do this. Super annoying in real life. It is super annoying on social media too. And I actually work with a lot of media companies to try to get them to not do this as much, because it's really hard if they're just shouting out what they want to say all the time and there isn't a good two-way conversation. Particularly for any of you that are targeting millennials as your target or ideal customer, this really is a game changer for them. And then, how do you write content that will get people to engage? You know, in many cases, it just takes a different point of view. Stop thinking like the business owner. Stop thinking like the marketer or the person that's actually putting out the posts, and think like your customer. Go back to your target and ideal customer. What is going on with them, right? What makes them whip their wallet out or call you or do anything? What else could they be doing with their time if they're not reading your post, right? The more you speak to your ideal customer, both through your words and the images and videos that you use, the higher the ROI you're going to get from your experience. And you know, what motivates them? What do they like? What else do they spend time on? The more that you're thinking about it, the better your content is. And the last thing I'll tell you about your target and ideal customer, every time they look at your stuff, every time they read your post, they're thinking, what's in it for me, right? We all are. So if you can't answer that question every time you're writing stuff, then you're going to get less engagement. You know, you have to be thinking about what is actually in it for me, for the customer. So most of you know the Holy Grail we're looking for on any social channel we're at, or any blog post you do, anything that you're doing to market yourself. Holy Grail is the share. other than Instagram and the Holy Grail, is the tagging of someone in the comments. Tag someone else, which is about as sharing as you can really do without using third-party apps for Instagram. So who is the best at getting people to share? I wanted to show you some case studies. I spend a lot of time and have visited multiple times at BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed is the best worldwide in getting people to share their content. So I wanted to share with you 3 or 4 of the top tips that every BuzzFeed writer, whether they're a reporter or on the branding and what they call the fun side, which is the native content side, what do they do to get you to share their content? First thing, make the reader identify with the content. Chris said it this morning, right? You need to make people feel like they're connected to what you're doing. So I know all of you at least once have read some post. It's like, you know you're a Mainer if, or you could tell you were born in the 60s if. You're making people identify with the content. So when you think about your target and ideal customer, whatever you're producing ought to make them feel something, that it's them. Hey, that's me. They're talking to me. The minute you do that, they'll start sharing, liking, and engaging more with your content. And this one here, which golden girl are you? The last visit I had to BuzzFeed, this one at that time had 1.6 million views, right? Wow. Here's another example of one that's a little bit less fun and kitschy. What career should you actually have? This one was, they featured Oprah, 18,500,000 views. And then it was shared millions of times, right? So make people identify with what you're trying to say. The second one, teach, empower, DIY are big ones for them, or be a resource. Now, if you're writing something at BuzzFeed and you're trying to get people to share it, you have to actually hit 2 out of all of these tenets that I'm sharing you with today in every single piece you write. So where can you teach people? How can you empower your prospects or your customers? How can you be a resource for them? And how can you show them to do it themselves? I swear to God, I know it seems counterintuitive, but you show people how to do it themselves and then they want to do more with you. One of our clients actually sold paper online. So our storefront was the web. And that's really tough to get people interested in paper, okay? Like, I'm sorry, it is. It's harder. So we started doing videos on YouTube of people making baby shower invitations, scrapbooking, all these different things with the paper, and then started selling a lot of paper, right? The whole idea is, how can you inspire someone to make sure that they can leverage your product, leverage you, or think about you when and if they need help or need your product or service. Here's some examples of this from BuzzFeed. 15 invaluable life hacks every dog should know. How to have the best literary wedding ever. My favorite, 41 tailgating tips that are borderline genius. Right? The Pats won last night. I can't help it. I have to stick in a little tailgating. Another piece, you have to make people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. Right? We all aspire to be something bigger. We all are looking to feel like something that we're part of something. When you can do that with your content, people will share it and your ROI will go up. Here's some examples. 49 things people from upstate New York love. And my favorite, 24 reasons everyone should see Maine before they die. Right? I like showing this one everywhere because, we're home. Evoking emotion. Whenever you can evoke emotion in what you're saying to get people sort of fired up about what you're doing, then they're going to start to engage in your content more. Now, BuzzFeed is really good at this. Watch this tiny dog faint from happiness. Like, of course, you've got to see that, right? Like, they're trying hard not to just be about the cat videos. They also have dog videos. But the other ones who are really good at this is Upworthy. So if you want to really get a sense of how you get shareable content with emotion, check out Upworthy. The other reason I want you to start looking at Upworthy is to do a post at Upworthy. You have to actually write 25 headlines for every post. So when you work for Upworthy, you go through the ringer. And you could be there for years before they make you stop writing 25 headlines for every post. Now, does that seem excessive for most of us? Yes, but there's a reason why. And I want to show you, headlines really matter. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of the rules that Upworthy have for headlines. But the last thing I'm going to tell you before I get to the headlines is people want to look smart. This is another tenet that you have to hit, right? The vast majority of people that retweet didn't read the article. So your headline matters. Maybe they're not clicking through to your site, but if you want people to share it, write a snappy headline and go from there. People want to look smart. That is actually the largest driver of retweets at Twitter, is that one emotion that you are evoking. I want to look smart. I want to associate myself with that content, and I want to look smart by sharing it. So back to headlines. Headlines do matter, and here's a case study from Upworthy. So there's two different headlines here for the exact same video. So the first one was, remember Planet of the Apes? It's closer to reality than you think, right? That was a little too clever, because half of us are like, oh God, what happened in that movie again? Like, I'm not sure I remember it. This headline, 2 monkeys were paid unequally. See what happens next, right? So the first one got 10,000 page views. This one got 1 million page views. So this is why at Upworthy, they make them write the headline over and over and over and over again until they can kind of figure out what works. Now, I did a pin for you of all the different headline rules at Upworthy so that you can have a copy of them and you can go back and kill yourself and try to write really good headlines. But ultimately, don't be too clever. Don't give too much away in the headline. And even though BuzzFeed is amazing at it, you don't have to have a number in every headline. Although I can tell you one of our most popular blog posts worldwide was 6 things to do when your check engine light comes on. Right? We like car dealers. So the other thing is visuals really matter. And all of you being sophisticated marketers, I mean, you've already self-selected yourselves by attending today's conference. So I know you know that. But you're going to get about a 60% lift on Facebook if you have a good image. And people remember images. Like, they identify with images. 80% of people remember what they saw. Only 10% of people remember what they hear. Right? Like, visuals really cement it. And the reason why is the human brain can process a visual, whether it's a photo or a video, 60,000 times faster than text. It's just how our brains are wired. And so understand that anytime you can show people something, do it. In fact, I don't think I have done a post on my own personal Facebook page for years without an image. Like, if I don't have an image of some kind to go with it, then maybe I don't need to be saying it, because really, no, people don't want to think about it that way. So always have an image and think about how the image is going to evoke emotion. I'll show you some good examples of that in a few minutes. Here's an example of a Facebook page, right? Like, this, you see the image, and even if you don't know what Tom's sells, you probably understand that there is a mission behind what they're doing, and you can start getting a feeling for it by just looking at the visuals. So really think hard about those. And again, don't forget, what you measure moves. Try some posts with good images, try some posts with other images, see what starts happening, and you'll recognize what people are responding to in your feeds. So I want to show you some examples of measuring. So this is one of our clients, Bennington Pontoon Boats, for any of you who like pontoon boats. This is a big client for us. And what we try to do is leverage images and then encourage our customers to also share their images. So this one here happened to be an image at a trade show. And in the first few hours it was posted, we had about 428 people liked it, 21 shares. But my favorite part is in the comments, they all start saying, here's mine. Here's mine, here's mine, here's mine. We take all those photos, we harvest them, and then create new posts out of it, tagging and linking to those boat owners. People are passionate, people are passionate about it. We don't do a lot of posts that talk about the technical features of the boats, because if you want one, you'll look it up on the website. Like, that's not my job to tell you the specs. We make you want to get in one, and that's what matters. Or it's like a feeling of the customers. I've got this is another example of it, right? So what is my customer like? What motivates them? What do they feel like? I can't have a boat in every picture, right? But this is me every time I make it to the lake, right? We're all feeling that. These posts actually do really well earlier in the day because people are thinking that they'd rather be on the lake than at work. And so this one got 782 shares. This one was 328 shares. Sharing is definitely what we're going for when we're doing Bennington Pontoon Boats. And creative content captures people. This client is a trap mill, right? One of the things we realized when we started looking, of course, these are fishermen, these are outdoor enthusiasts, but mostly lobstermen are buying traps and gear and buoys and ropes. But when we looked at it, the people controlling a lot of the budget are actually women. right? It's the wives who control the checkbook while the guy is like out fishing. So we have to every now and then shake it up to try to get more people engaged with this. So we are always measuring male and female in our engagement when we look at ROI on Facebook. This one here was a St. Patrick's Day post that was shared, and this one was seen 13,288 times. You know, it's, hey, let's just be funny at St. Patrick's Day. Google Plus, how many of you actually put content on Google Plus? Anyone? Yes. I'm glad there's a few of you. Like, it's the least sexy one. It's the one you're like, oh, I don't want to raise my hand. Ew. Google Plus is sexy, right? Not for people, it's for search, right? So everybody who comes to us at BDN Maine or Dream Local Digital and asks us for help on Facebook, we put them on Google Plus too, whether they like it or not. We pump content into that all day long. This here is a roofer. I mentioned him earlier, and he does not understand what we do, which is okay. That's my job. But I know that 181,700 times he has showed up on the first page of search when people are looking because we are pumping content into Google+. So whatever it is that you want to show up on search, whatever words you think your target and ideal customer are going to type into the box when they need you, that needs to be here. If nobody follows you, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I think he's got 158 followers, which is actually really shockingly high. It's probably everybody who's ever worked for Dream Local, and maybe him. But it's okay. You don't need followers. You need views on Google+. YouTube is also the second largest search engine. This is the drum center of Portsmouth. They sell drums to a lot of different kinds of people. Now, this here happens to be my brother. And I asked Shane, what are the frequently asked questions? What do people ask you? You should be answering questions. And Shane says, oh, I get this one all the time and I hate it. How do you tune your snare drums? I was like, why do you hate it? And he's like, Shane's a very good accomplished drummer. And he says, well, everybody does it differently. It depends on the style of the person. It depends on the music they're playing. It depends on the drum. And I'm like, yes, Shane, but if people are asking you this over and over and over again, they want to know how you tune your snare drums, right? So he was very irritated with me, and he did a video anyway to prove me wrong. That video has been seen 159,964 times. Here's another one. So now he does it all the time, and you'll see he upgraded a little. He's got a red curtain behind him now, right? Like he's trying to up his game. He's getting it going. He's been doing these. This one was just a review of one particular drum, not a set, one kind of drum. And it's got 1,300 views in the first couple hours it was up there. He has more than 7 million views going right now on YouTube because people want him to answer questions. How can you do that? How can you empower? How can you be a resource? The sharing and viewing here is really driving a very high ROI. And the vast majority of his business now is e-commerce as a result. So thinking about ROI, we know that you need to create engaging content. You know that you want to have people really paying attention to what you're doing. How do you measure it? What are some of the things that you're looking for in measuring? You want a couple successful campaigns where we're really looking to see how things are going. You can see here, this one is a gym in Boise, Idaho, that we're working with. And you'll see we use a photo, kids. People love photos of kids. They particularly love photos of their kids. So if there's any way you can slide that into your stuff, it works really well. This one here, we're measuring the effectiveness, but not only by how many people reach, which in this case was 51,000 people, but we're looking at what's our cost per view. In this case, very, very low. Like the ROI of Facebook, if you know what you're doing, can be incredibly high. Now, let's define if you know what you're doing. How you get really good click-through rates, really good links, 320 plus engagements, how do you do it? You really need to know who your target and ideal customer is. It all comes down to that. It all comes down to targeting. You could target, of course you could target by location, pretty straightforward. I don't want people who are too far away from that gym to see it. But you can also target on demographics. What do these people like? You could target on income level. You can target on interests. What else do they like to do? Obviously fitness is a big one here. You can target based on marital status. I know we all think the it's complicated status is funny, but you can target to those people. You can target to those people when they go from single to engaged. Think about those life stages. What's happening with your target customers that makes them want to respond to what you're doing? This is an Instagram placement of a Facebook ad here, where you can see we got almost 1,800 likes, reached 5,200 people, and a high engagement rate. This is a metric you should pay a lot of attention to, is engagement rate. Are people paying attention? Are they engaging in what you're doing? Are they liking, commenting, sharing? What are they doing when they do it? And are they converting? That there is for a marketing agency that we power, that's national and headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina. Dogs. People like dogs, right? It's not just about cat videos. People like dogs. This one here is a canine retreat and spa that we're working with. And this one is just under 74 cents per click, which is actually not bad. Like, that's not bad when you're looking at what you're trying to get from a return on investment, and a solid click-through rate. How many of you are using Facebook advertising in what you're doing? Almost everyone. Okay, good. We'll take some questions about Facebook advertising in a minute. And, wait. We'll do it right now before we go into HubSpot. Anybody have questions about Facebook advertising? What's working, what's not working in what you're doing? Yes?
Do you work with any B2B companies? And if so, what's a solid click-through benchmark?
What are you selling?
Trade show attendance.
Okay, so trade show attendance, we actually have a few clients doing that. So B2B, Facebook is good if, depending on the industry. So what kind of trade show is it? Is it like?
We do one for commercial drones, we do one for accounting, we do one for administrative professionals.
Got it. So Facebook will work for ones, particularly the drones, in particular, things that people like to share. We'd also be looking at LinkedIn. So when you start getting into accounting, financial, any of that, you may want to be thinking about LinkedIn instead. But either way, if you're getting click-throughs that are 1 to 1.5%, you're doing pretty well. And so what I would start doing is a lot of photographs of people attending the show, testimonials, not just buy tickets now, right? Do what you can to be a storyteller about what experience I'm going to have, but click-through rates are going to be pretty tight for that B2B. And LinkedIn, I can tell you, we're not going to cover it a lot today. The cost per click in LinkedIn is pretty high. It's one of the highest ones, but really target your audience and try to think about what you're going to do paid and what you're going to do for free on LinkedIn. Lastly, do you use LinkedIn Sales Navigator? There's a great video on YouTube on the LinkedIn channel about their product called Sales Navigator. It's essentially a sales CRM and tool on top of LinkedIn data. Very powerful for B2B trade shows. Okay. Anybody else have questions about Facebook ads? Yeah.
I have a question on the benefits and differences between boosting a post and creating an ad. I find that if I create an organic post and I notice that it's successful and I boost it, it's often more successful.
Yes.
So with creating the ad, I have a lot more ability to target my audience,
Yes.
which is great, but I often don't get as much traction with it.
Right.
So what is the difference between those two methods?
Good question. Did everybody hear her question? She's looking for the differences between boosting and ads. So first thing, you just identified a pro tip, which is if you are going to boost a post, wait till the post gets a little bit of traction before you whip out your credit card. Right? Facebook wants boosted posts to be as relevant as possible for the viewer. And so if they see that a post is already getting some likes, a little bit of engagement, some comments, then you boost it, it will actually work significantly better. So you figured that out. Now, the difference between boosted posts and ads, boosting posts matters when you're trying to really amplify your content or an event, if you're promoting a trade show event. And it works very well in that category, but it's really different than an ad where you should have a good call to action. So it's like what we were talking about before. Why did you write what you wrote? And what is it that you want me to feel or do? And if it has to do with engaging with your content, then boosting posts is what you should be doing. Ads are more about, I want you to visit my website. I want you to know more about me. I want you to buy something from me. The ads work very well in that space. And there's a lot of new ad units coming out that are allowing you to even target people physically near your building and things. And when you're doing that, you can use content in those ads, but the call to action should be different. Like don't expect that I'm going to read a blog post as much that way. Boosted posts are going to work better for that. What do you sell or do?
I sell beer.
Love you. Cars and beer, my two favorite things. So what I would be doing for you is I'd be promoting the beer itself and the experience of the beer in ads, and then I'd be, with your content, I'd stick with boosted posts. Hey, Nathan.
Talk about Facebook pixels.
Yes. So we actually have Sean up here who's using them too. Facebook pixels allow you to, they're particularly effective if you are going to sell a certain product and you want to target people or retarget people who have visited your site or looked at your stuff on Facebook. So we're using them pretty heavily right now with several different e-commerce clients that we work with. We're finding that dropping the pixel is working really well. The conversion rates are incredibly high because it's a very, very targeted audience. And so for us, we're really excited about expanding them more. Sean, what's your experience?
Well, my experience with it for Days Jewelers is basically anybody that has gone online and visited a product on our website, then they have that product follow them around. So that's basically what it is. It's a retargeting. We've had a very good ROI with it. We started it 2 or 3 months ago, and I think we've had about $6,000 in online sales on a $1,500 spend. So it's done really well for us. I mean, basically, it's just kind of a reminder, like, hey, did you forget about this product that you just viewed?
Right.
And you're kind of staying in their face until they finally buy it.
Yeah. It's really good with shopping cart abandonment too. How many of you are selling anything online, like e-commerce? There's a few of you. So one of the metrics we're actually not going to talk enough about in today's session is shopping cart abandonment. But retargeting is an incredibly powerful tool for that. And depending on what your product or service is, you may find that Facebook is the most cost-effective place for you to do that. So, yes?
Can you talk about LinkedIn a little bit?
Sure. So LinkedIn, business-to-business network, 50% of all users of LinkedIn are the decision maker at their company. So the people who write the checks are there, and it's a good place to be. We're finding a lot more success with LinkedIn with content and with linking and groups and being a resource. As I said, the paid campaigns, which are easier to measure the performance of and see your ROI, tend to be pretty expensive per click unless you have a very niche space. What questions do you have about LinkedIn?
We sell civil engineering services. Facebook is not the place
Nope.
for us. And I don't really know what to do, where to go with LinkedIn. I mean, we work a lot locally, we also work nationally. I don't really know where to go.
So I can tell you customer testimonials, project profiles, like show a profile of a project that you did and work into it, your approach to it. Help me understand out of all civil engineering services why you're distinguished or different. And if I were you, I'd be thinking about video. Video, right? People want to watch the internet, they don't want to read it. So if you can get a video of a project profile, maybe even with the customer in it, that's going to go really well. Now, don't feel like I'm telling you to get a really nice video camera and go fancy. Like, get out there with a cell phone, but do it. However you have to do it, do it. And then you'll find a lot more engagement in the content. Because when all of us should be using video in our businesses, every single one. In fact, we are right now with Facebook Live. Video really matters, but particularly when you get into areas where it's a little drier in content, it really makes a huge difference. And for any of you who feel like there's a million people out there who do the same exact thing you do, makes a huge difference. So I would think about a little bit of video, and I'd invest money in that probably before I started dumping hundreds and hundreds of dollars into LinkedIn paid first. Yeah, did somebody else have one? No? Tracy. Oh, thanks. Oh, goodness. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few more samples of successful campaigns. HubSpot, Constant Contact, any tools that you are using to measure the effectiveness of your email and your database, do it. It matters a lot. Here's a good example of one we ran through HubSpot. We could see how many people opened it, how many people clicked it. And I use HubSpot because it ties into my Salesforce system. And so I assign things to our sales reps. They work really well. And Constant Contact also has a killer dashboard for that. Paid search. These are examples of paid search, and what you need to be looking for in ROI is obviously your click-through rates, your CPCs, the cost, and measuring how effective the campaigns are against each other. And you'll have a copy of this slide. And I also wanted to show you dashboard reporting, and mostly not so you'll be like, darn it, I don't have a dashboard and this stinks, but so you can see some of the things that you should be measuring in terms of SEM KPIs if you're doing any paid search, in terms of what's driving referral traffic to you, whether it be from search or from social, and in terms of how your website is performing. So these are dry slides that you can look at later, but they'll show you all the different KPIs about what you're looking to accomplish, how many people are coming to the site, how much money you're spending, and where the ROI is. When it comes to email KPIs, I want you to be thinking about your customer base and segmenting your lists and the value of your lists. Again, think about your targeted customers. Who's your target and ideal customers? And I've got a couple examples in here I want to tell you about building your email lists. This is actually a case study where we had a client that sells guns, right? You think you have a hard time using Facebook? Let me tell you, selling guns is really hard to do. We're not allowed to talk a lot about it. But in talking to the client, what they were really trying to achieve is not only selling the product, but they wanted to understand the difference between an outdoorsman and an avid hunter. Like what are the differences between these people? We leveraged a contest where we asked people to segment themselves essentially, and then started building segmented lists for this client. In this particular one, we reached 41,000 people with Facebook ads. We promoted Facebook. We got 25,000 entries into the contest with a 4.4% click-through rate. So if you're using contests, don't just say, hey, win an iPad and give me your name. Ask these people questions and segment your email list so that you have a real newsletter and you can actually send relevant content to these people. Here's a day spa that we did the same thing. These folks had a lot of business coming in, but they really didn't know their customers very well. So we ran a contest for them. This is a BDN Maine client. And we did sample posts. I wanted to show you some sample posts that we did about it. And then what we learned with this contest here was we asked questions. Do you like facials? Do you like manicures? Do you come in to get your hair done? How old are you? Have you ever been here before? And then we send separate email campaigns to them. That was a really powerful thing for the business to get. And all she gave away was some spa treatments. I mean, think about it. So if you want to build your lists and really be able to leverage ROI of what you're doing, consider this tactic. And the BDN Maine team are really good at contests. We gained valuable insights about the customer and what they were trying to do. That one, we got 3,700 entries, 38,000 people reached versus via ads, 3.64% click-through rate. Like, you don't see click-through rates like that. So think about contests and how they integrate with your social and email lists. And for all of you, even if you're not sending an email newsletter today, that's okay. Your email list is incredibly valuable. For those of us who are in thought leadership, it's probably the most valuable asset you have as a business owner. You can upload your email list to Facebook and profile them and get lookalike audiences. Hey, these are my customers. Here's a bunch more like them. You can export your LinkedIn contacts and do the same thing. Really be thinking about segmenting your lists, and this is an excellent tactic to do that. And this is one we did for the BDN Maine. They had a bunch of readers of their blog. They wanted to know more because they wanted to get a sponsor of their blog. So to do that, we asked them questions. How often do you hike? Are you willing to travel? Do you want special offers? And we also asked them if they wanted hiking boots. And we got people to answer, and it was just giving away a little gift card. So this type of thing can give you valuable insights, high ROI. Now, we're going to close, and I'm going to breeze by 3 quick slides for you. It's additional business intelligence that you need. If you want to measure ROI and know how you're doing, you really need to look at how are people finding you, what demographics are you reaching, what types of content are working the best, and don't be afraid to A/B test your content, your headlines, and time of day to tweak them to see if you can get better ROI. You should be knowing how your audience is trending. Is it growing? Are they engaged? Who is an influencer? I love it when a brand will reach out to me and say, we'd love it if you'd share our posts. right? They think that all of a sudden that's going to really help them. Influencer marketing works very, very well. If you want to know more about influencer marketing, I would encourage you to say hi to Jody Flynn, who is close to the back. She does it with her podcast really, really well. Engagement obviously matters, driving leads, and how well you show up on search. All of those things matter a lot to you. And finally, am I getting mentioned online? Make sure you pick up, amplify, and share every time somebody is kind enough to talk about you and or your brand. It matters a lot. Okay. And lastly, what I want to close with when you're thinking about ROI is you really need to think about what was my plan, what was my strategy when I started all of this, and how am I doing? Give yourself a performance review at least once a month. How am I doing? Is anything I'm doing working? Because it really makes a difference. And don't forget, your customer is thinking, what's in it for me? Make sure you tell them what's in it for them. If you need help with any of this, whether it's reputation management, social, website search, anything like that, make sure that you visit the BDN main team. They have some folks there that are there to help you. And finally, in closing, when you want to be successful, I want you to think like your customer, understand who that target audience is, measure your results often, look at different other people and how they're doing it, and think about what will make people share. Every time you're typing something, what will make them share this? Unless, of course, you're trying to sell a ring and then you want them to buy. So thank you so much. Does anybody have questions for me before we close? Yes?
Where did you say to put the business cards if we wanted a copy?
I can take business cards up here or at the BDN main desk, and I'll make sure you get a copy of the deck. Anyone else? Yeah. Thank you.